It's hard being human. It's hard being incarnated in the meat puppet. It's just difficult. I also feel there are dark energies in the world, and free will is a big deal. We do know right from wrong. You're free to destroy yourself if you want, but you do know right from wrong, and you can move forward. Same thing as a whole human race. I'm Louisa Peck. I grew up in Seattle. My dad was a law professor. My mom's sort of an art historian. My dad was really, really atheist. So it was a very academic home, and it was a very performance-oriented home. We didn't get love just for being us. We had to do well, perform, make them proud. So I was very academic, and I found I liked philosophy classes, and that's where I really got into proving there was no God. So I got put in this private high school at 10th grade. Senior year, I discovered beer, and I just started finding out where parties were and going and getting wasted, and all of a sudden people liked me, and I liked me better when I was drunk. But inside, I was like a very nervous actress. It was such a weird way to live, but it was the only thing I knew. I graduated in 1982, got to New York, and there was Studio 54. There was, I was just sort of trying to live the dream, except for I kept having panic attacks. So I would live the dream by staying drunk enough that I wouldn't have panic attacks. At a certain point, I asked a friend to come down to Manhattan and bring a lot of coke. And he came down, brought a lot of coke. We did a lot of coke in the apartment. And then we took a cab and went to the Peppermint Lounge. I was feeling really, really good, dancing, having fun, and we ran out of coke. And so we pooled our money and asked around, and somebody said, this guy's selling it. So we bought a gram from him. We started snorting it. So I just snorted and snorted the whole pile. And then I'm going to go to the bathroom. By the time I was in the stall, I could only see directly in front of me, and also couldn't get any breath of air. It felt like all the air was breathed up in that bathroom. So I got out of the bathroom and I'm breathing, and I'm not getting anything. The bartender gave me a glass of water. I just took a sip, and then bam! And I was just shooting it straight up in the air. And then I realized I was rocketing out from Manhattan, and I had this huge sense of relief that I was leaving behind not just that nightclub and that kind of whatever bad situation had been happening there, but that whole nonsense of being Louisa. I was just so done with that. It was a perfect, clear blue sky, and I sensed that the ocean was under me, perfect blue going all the way to the horizon. Then I looked and I saw a mesa that came up, and on top of it was this old weather-worn house. And I thought, that house has to do with me, and I gotta get there. And I crossed the threshold. Once I was over the threshold, then I knew this is the house of my ancestors, and they have all come this way through this house. And I could begin to feel my ancestors around me. They were all really excited to meet me, but I couldn't see them. I could just feel them. I didn't even hardly know who any of my ancestors were in my regular life. And then next thing I know, the ocean's in front of me, the sun is directly in front of me, it's setting and it's making a path that comes toward me. And I zoom over that path. And I'm flying and I'm feeling all this forward motion, and it feels delicious. But then I had a skeptical thought, and it was like, wait a second. Perfect ideal surroundings, unbelievable beauty, fabulous sensation. Am I dreaming? People dream they're flying. Is this real? And then a voice answered me. And it was very kind of deep and clear and powerful, and it said more real than anything back there. So, sun started getting bigger and bigger as I got closer, and I began to even be able to see some of the patterns on the sun, and I thought, am I going to vaporize? I'm getting so close, but again with no fear. And then instead of vaporizing, I sort of hit it, passed through this filament, and I was in the light. And it was everywhere. And I felt that it was so brilliant that all you could see was light, but I could also feel that it was in me somehow. It was light from the inside as well as from the outside, warmth from the inside, and I began to understand that it was love. I felt this sense of finally, because all my life had been jump for the cookie, try, and maybe you'll get a little crumb of love, and here I was just completely engulfed by love, completely saturated with love. And then I began to become aware that I was being cradled like an infant by some being and just pouring, you are so loved, you are so loved. I know you better than you even know yourself, and I adore you. And that feeling, I had everything I could possibly want. And I just wanted to stay there forever. I can't say how much time passed, whether it was a minute or what, but then the parent just said, you can't stay, you're not done, and went to blackness. I was baffled. I was absolutely baffled. What do you mean I can't stay? What do you mean I'm not done? But then it just went to black instantly. In the blackness, I also had a sense of dropping. And when I felt the dropping, that's the first time I felt scared. To drop felt frightening, and I didn't know how far I was going to drop or what was going to happen. I began to see these little stick figures, and they were like chalk drawings on the background. One of the stick figures started getting closer, and he's going, how many fingers? What is your name? Then I gradually realized he's talking to me, and then I remembered the world. When I came back to reality, all the stick figures turned into all the people in the crowd around us, right? And he was the bartender, of course. And I had just come alive again. It was the hugest bummer. I remembered I am back in the meat puppet. Everything is manual now. Everything is back to this stupid memory I have of how things worked. The bartender had been doing CPR on me the whole time. It was about 3 minutes. In the morning, I remember having bruises all over. Back of my head was all lumpy, but most of all my sternum from the CPR. And I talked to my roommate about what had happened. And she said, so do you think that the parent thing that you said was holding you, was that like God? And I knew it was, but I just couldn't go there. I thought, if this is true, and if I went somewhere and that was pretty close to God, that means the church people are right. And that means I'll have to go to church. And then I just kind of put it away and tried not to think about it. But none of the memories were fading. But I just wanted it to be a hallucination so bad. Years passed with nothing weird happening, and the story was just kind of a story. My alcoholism has gotten worse and worse and worse. So I went to a party. I got so drunk they took my keys away, but I found my keys, I found my car, and I drove home completely shit-faced. I got out of the car, and I remember kind of holding myself up with the door, and it was a starry night, and I just thought, man, I am such a badass when I drive drunk. And right after I had that thought, something seemed to shoot from the stars and through me and out my feet like lightning. And it was a knowing, and it said, this is the last time I can help you, and you do know right from wrong. And I felt a sense of guilt because I did know what I had done was wrong at some level, and I did know I knew better. And I tried to shake it off, but it had this intoning of truth somewhere in my core, and that resonance just wouldn't stop. And I just kept hearing, you do know right from wrong. And that's the last time I would help you. Someone's been helping me all this time, which I didn't know, but I sort of knew. So it took me another month before I went to my first AA meeting. But I did go, and that was January 29th, 1995, and I've not had a drink since. I am a completely different person now than I was at the time when I had the NDE, which is 40 years ago. There's this component of knowing, not thinking that God is real. I think it's important not to segregate God as separate from anything else. God is the energy that is everywhere. It is not useful to personify God as some dude in the sky, and it is not useful to say, well, God's the boss and then these angels are at a low. They're all the same. My job is to leave each person I encounter a little happier than they were. And I take this in everything I do, a human moment in our work, and people that I pass on the street. Sometimes I'm in the airport and I'll get overwhelmed and I'll just say to him, I can't smile at everybody. But I feel like each person that I exchange that little spark with, if it's positive, if there's a moment of seeing we're both human and I'm saying good wishes towards you, I'm doing my job. It's hard being human. It's hard being incarnated in the meat puppet. It's just difficult. I also feel there are dark energies in the world, and free will is a big deal. We do know right from wrong. You're free to destroy yourself if you want, but you do know right from wrong, and you can move forward. Same thing as a whole human race. We have these horrible hate makes hate conflicts going on in the world, but we deeper down know that love is what we're going for. So God wants us to find the path to love. I think that Martin Luther King nailed it when he said, hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. Turn it around and find a way to love. And no, you don't hit back. You love back so that the other person sees they were wrong.